Dr. Katarina Johnson, and her area of expertise is the human microbiome. We previously talked with Gregory Landoa and Abiodun about agriculture and the way that food is grown and so forth. And one of the things that comes up in that environment is soil. And what makes soil healthy is all the microbes and so forth. So, but in fact, everybody, I think most people now know that we also have a microbiome in our guts, and has a huge impact on our health. Katarina Johnson, Dr. Johnson at Oxford University has been thinking about this stuff for a long time. She's been studying it. She has a TEDx talk called The Secret Power of Poo, which we're really not going to talk about today, but you should watch. But hi, Katarina, how are you?
Hi, yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'll just open because I've got a few.
Yeah, I'm going to give the floor to you so you can give a talk, and I'm going to take a little break from talking. Cool. Thank you.
Yes, so I'm Dr. Katarina Johnson. I'm a researcher and science communicator from the University of Oxford, and my specialty is the gut microbiome. So just a quick background on the topic of the microbiome. The latest estimate is that only half the cells in our body are human, and the other half are microbial. And most of our body's microbes live in our gut, and we call this the gut microbiome. And it contains literally trillions of bacteria. So in fact, we each have more bacteria in our gut than the number of stars in the whole of the Milky Way galaxy. And the gut microbiome is probably one of the most complex ecosystems you could really study. So just to give you a bit of a flavor, these are the chemical reactions that are going on all the time in one bacterium. And all you have to understand from this image is that it's really complicated. And these aren't even all the chemical reactions, it's just the main ones. And we have hundreds of species of bacteria and different strains within species, and they can all do different things. And then all of these bacteria in our guts are interacting together. So just imagine a network of interactions, a bit like this, but scaled up by trillions. And that's just the bacteria, let alone all the viruses, fungi, and other microscopic organisms making up this ecosystem. And one thing about our gut microbiome that's really so amazing is its resiliency and also its relative stability within individuals. So if you're generally kind of healthy, your gut microbiome composition doesn't really tend to change that much. So if, for example, you suddenly change your diet or for a week, or you have to take antibiotics, your gut microbiome typically returns to its pre-disturbance state. I mean, this can take kind of 6 months after having antibiotics and sometimes longer. And from the point of view of like theoretical ecology, it's intriguing that our gut microbiome is able to maintain a relatively stable state despite its exceptionally high species diversity. And so findings in ecological network theory have actually shown that competition between microbial species is really key in allowing our microbiome to maintain its stability. Whereas on the other hand, if you've got microbes that are cooperating with each other, this actually tends to reduce the stability of our microbiome, because then, for example, a decrease in abundance of one species can have knock-on effects for its cooperating species. And this can kind of set the scene for an unstable microbiome. So if we want to have a stable and healthy microbiome, we want a lot of competitive interactions going on within a diverse microbial community. And so diversity of the gut microbiome has generally been linked to both better gut health and also overall health. So some key things I showed in my own recently published research is that a diet high in fiber is really good for promoting a diverse gut, and a lot of research is now really supporting this. Also, trying not to stress too much, because stress can actually reduce the diversity of your gut. Not taking antibiotics unless you have to, and also consuming a diverse diet, because different types of bacteria break down different types of food. So basically, if we have a broader range of micronutrients and macronutrients in our diet, this is more likely to help foster a more diverse microbiome. And also I found that eating naturally occurring probiotics and naturally occurring prebiotics, but not in supplement form, can also help to increase the diversity of your gut. So naturally occurring probiotics are found in foods like fermented cheese, sauerkraut, kimchi, and naturally occurring prebiotics is a specific type of fiber that's found in foods like bananas, legumes, whole grains, asparagus, onion, leek, etc. So on top of this really complex microbial ecosystem, all these microbes and the chemicals they make can influence the immediate environment of our gut, and in turn affects kind of our physiology in so many ways. So our metabolism, our immune system, our nervous system, and our hormones. So from the point of view of this talk, obviously I'll focus on the immune system. So our gut actually has more immune cells than the rest of our body put together. So 60% of our immune system is actually located around our intestines. And this kind of makes sense when you think about it, because our gut is exposed to the outside environment via the food we eat. So it's really vulnerable to attack from outside invaders. And it's really important that our gut can recognize threats and also mount a defense. And so the presence of gut microbes helps to stimulate our gut to develop immunity. So our gut microbiome composition, particularly when we're young, is actually really important for kind of the correct development of our immune system. So the first microbes that kind of colonize us in early life are kind of our body's like first teachers. And they instruct our immune system about what microbes are dangerous and it needs to attack, and what microbes are harmless. And this is actually one of the main challenges for our immune system, because it has to learn to differentiate between commensals, so these are kind of microbes that don't cause us any harm, and pathogens. So these are microorganisms that can cause disease, whether that's bacteria, viruses, or fungi. And the gut microbiome is important not only when we're young to train our immune system, but actually gut microbes are in constant communication with our immune system throughout our life. So this diagram is simply just to illustrate that microbes in our gut can affect so many different aspects of our immune response. So the microbiome's effect on our immune system isn't actually confined to the gut. Our microbiome instructs our systemic immune system, so basically an immune system that circulates our entire body. So really, our resident gut microbes shape our immune responses in a very global sense. And we can think of the gut microbiome kind of as operating a dial that controls both the sensitivity or responsiveness of our entire immune system. And the setting on this dial has to be just right. So when invaders are present, so for example, coronavirus, if the immune system mounts a slow response, the pathogen gains an advantage. But if the immune system is overzealous, this can result in excessive inflammation or autoimmunity. And in fact, there's some thought in the field that the gut microbiome may be linked to an increase in autoimmune conditions that we see nowadays. So conditions like eczema, asthma, allergies, etc. And this is because if we limit our exposure to microbes, especially when we're growing up, which is increasingly the case in Western cultures, we grow up in more sterilized environments, kids don't play outside as much, we're over-reliant on antibiotics. Our immune system may not be exposed to a diverse range of microbes when it's developing. And so basically, it may end up wrongly interpreting harmless agents as pathogens and launching an attack. And so this can result in an overactive immune system. So whilst it's good to have an active immune response to infectious agents like coronavirus, and if it's overactive, this can actually be very dangerous. So in fact, one aspect of the immune system that you might have heard quite a bit of in relation to this novel coronavirus is a cytokine storm. So cytokines are small proteins that are released by lots of different cells in the body, including those of the immune system. And they basically help to coordinate the body's response against infection and to trigger inflammation to fight the infectious agent, or in this case, coronavirus. And a certain degree of inflammation is good, right? So for example, when the coronavirus enters the lungs, it triggers an immune response, and this then attracts immune cells to the region and to help attack the virus. But then sometimes the body's response to infection can go into overdrive. So in coronavirus patients, excessive cytokines are released, which then activates more immune cells, which then release more cytokines. And so basically you end up with a positive feedback loop, resulting in kind of hyperinflammation. And this is what really damages the lungs and what results in respiratory failure. And in fact, this is some really recently published data from the pandemic, where they basically looked at the levels of a particular cytokine in the body called interleukin 6 or IL-6, and they found it was actually a very good predictor of whether patients became critically ill. So basically, when patients were admitted to the hospital, they measured the levels of this cytokine, and they found that those people that had a higher level of the interleukin were more likely to subsequently need mechanical ventilation. And so this kind of supports the thinking that this cytokine storm is associated with more severe outcomes for coronavirus patients. I mean, obviously, this is kind of a brand new field. We don't really know any direct research yet on the link between the gut microbiome and coronavirus, but we do know, at least from previous research in animal models, that the microbiome does influence your susceptibility to a cytokine storm, which kind of makes sense, really, given our microbiome's integral role in our immune system. So yeah, overall, generally, we know that if you have good gut health with a stable, diverse and resilient gut microbiome, this can really help to promote a healthy immune response. Although, however healthy your gut microbiome might be, you're still susceptible to catching viruses like this novel coronavirus. And it's also kind of intriguing from a scientific point of view to do with this virus is the really wide range of symptoms that we see, from people that are asymptomatic to people who are really severely suffering from this virus, even young, fit and healthy adults. And perhaps one of the reasons why some people have such severe symptoms and others only have mild symptoms, obviously apart from age being a factor and underlying medical conditions, is due to like genetic variation amongst people in terms of the receptor that the virus uses to enter the cells. But it would also be interesting if there were any specific research in the future looking at the composition of the gut microbiome and whether that can predict people's immune response to this coronavirus as well. So yeah, thank you for listening. Let me know if you have any questions.
Awesome, thank you, Katerina. So yeah, just one quick question. So do you think it's safe to say, I know the science is not there yet, but you think it's safe to say that one of the strategies for protecting yourself against disease with coronavirus is one of the diseases that we protect ourselves against would be to have a gut-friendly diet and to take care of the microbes in our belly and to be kind of proactive about our health in that way?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we know from like research in the past decade or so that the bacteria living in our gut play a really important role in our physical health and maybe also even our mental health as well. And I think that that's something that is starting now to, come onto the horizon of the general public who are really interested in gut health. But yeah, it's really important for our immune system to be healthy. The link between our gut bacteria and immune system is incredibly strong. So, of course, like nothing will definitely protect you from, coronavirus or any other viruses, but helping to maintain a like diverse gut and, eating well, particularly a high diet high in fiber, because we know that definitely has a very beneficial effect, can really help your gut microbiome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kat. We're going to move on to the next speakers, but this was super helpful and super interesting to know that there's something there in our guts that we can support and kind of do to keep ourselves healthy. Thanks again.
You're welcome.